How to deal with your monkey mind. Is Kute here, nationally best-selling author of You Are the One and the Magic of Surrender. The mind, the mind, the mind. Full of thoughts, you see. In every given day, we have 65,000 thoughts a day. Most of those thoughts are the same as yesterday. Most of the thoughts that were from yesterday are pre-programmed thoughts, conditioned thoughts from childhood, from parents, from ancestors, from media, from social media. Most of those thoughts aren't even our thoughts. So if we're not conscious and aware, we are being run, we are being controlled by thoughts that don't actually belong to us. I'm not enough. I can never make it. You know, I'm going to be homeless. I'm stupid. I'm too this. I'm too fat. I'm too that. I'm not this. Constant comparison. The mind. If you listen to everything that your mind says, you'll never fulfill your true greatness and potential. If you listen to everything your mind says, it will hijack you and make you live in a prison of fear and prevent you from stepping into your greatness and manifesting and fulfilling your dreams. The mind, the mind. In order to truly be free, in order to truly find peace, we must learn how to navigate our mind and our thoughts. First, we must understand, number one, that you are not the mind and you are not the thoughts. That just because a thought is in your mind doesn't mean it's true. Many times we relate to our thoughts like they're real. We relate to our thoughts like they're fact. We have a thought, I can't do it. We have a thought, they won't like me. We have a thought, it's not going to work. We believe these thoughts. The moment you start believing those thoughts start becoming a reality for you, and you start creating that thought into reality. So just because a thought is in your mind doesn't mean it's real. It's just a thought, like a cloud passing through the sky. What we must learn to instead do is, number two, begin to observe the thoughts. When you can start to observe the thoughts, see, many times we're not really observing the thoughts. We're so attached and identified with those thoughts that we end up thinking we are those thoughts, and there's no space. And when there's no space and we're so overly identified with those thoughts will run you. Those thoughts will control you. Those thoughts will limit you. Those thoughts will inhibit you. Those thoughts will prevent you from being you. So start to observe those thoughts. When you begin to observe the thought, I'm not this, I'm not that. That is just a thought that is arising in the moment. And there's thousands of these thoughts happening that we're often not conscious of. As you start to observe the thought that's arising, you become conscious of that thought. You can actually step back and start seeing that between you and that thought, there is a moment of space. And if you are observing the thought, you are not the thought. And as you start observing that thought, that you are not the thought, there's space. In that space, there's freedom. There's a moment of freedom that you can make a choice. There's a moment of freedom that you can choose. And so ask yourself this question. When you have a thought, a negative thought, a limiting thought, don't fight the thought. Don't judge the thought. Don't even try to push it away. Observe it and ask yourself the question, is it true? Is it real? Is it fact? Many times we're believing thoughts that are fiction as though they're fact, and they start becoming a reality. You see, your thoughts aren't important. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying go out and think negative thoughts, but it's not simply your thoughts that are important. What's really important is your relationship with those thoughts. What's really important is the power that you give those thoughts. A thought arises, but if you don't give it power, you don't give it reality, you don't attach to it, it doesn't have reality. It just arises and moves through like clouds in the sky. So it's not the thought that's important. What's more important is your relationship with the thought. And so when you can understand you're not the thought and observe the thought, there's some space between you and the thought. In that space, there's a moment, there's a gap for you to choose. In that choice is your freedom. In that choice is your power. And each time you don't just indulge that thought, each time you don't just indulge that thought, which reinforces that thought, which then becomes stronger, it becomes a story, and thoughts that are continually indulged and acted upon become a mood, which become an identity, and identities are what keep you stuck. A collection of thoughts which become beliefs that become identities then keep you locked in a prison, locked in a set pattern. But every time you observe the thought, you don't indulge the thought, that thought begins to lose its grip. See, the mind is very sneaky.